VFX has been a huge part of film and TV, as well as other aspects of media too. Today I will show you the history and progression of the visual effects world and how it has impacted us. To give you more of an insight, here is the definition of VFX. VFX to me is important in many ways. It's important because it saves time in post-production and helps you to create scenes under budget as well. Another importance to VFX is the fact you can show impossible and non-realistic things, like aliens or dragons for example, which are used in a lot of feature films nowadays. VFX dates back to as early as the mid-1800s, where Swedish photographer Oscar Reglander created the world's first special effects image in 1857. This was by integrating sections of 32 negatives into one single image, to then make a combination print. However, American film director Alfred Clark created the first ever motion picture special effect in 1895. This was a stop-motion effect used in the reenactment of the Mary Queen of Scots beheading. After the executioner raises the axe, there is a short edit where the actress is replaced by a mannequin, and then the mannequin's head proceeds to get chopped off. In this era of VFX, they didn't have all the technology and equipment we have today. Improvising was key in the development of early visual effects work. Georges Méliès, a French special effects pioneer, was another person important to the rise of VFX. He is famous for his visual effects work in the movie Le Voyage dans la Lune. Also known as the Cinemagician, he discovered techniques like split screen and the double exposure process. Hollywood played a big part in the progression of VFX in the 1910s and 20s. Directors such as David Wark Griffith and Cecil Blount DeMille were important during this time. Griffith was an American film director, widely considered the most important filmmaker of the early 1900s. He was key in the development of video transitions like in and out iris effects. You may be familiar with these effects. They are used a lot in Adobe software like Premiere Pro and After Effects. Also an American film director, DeMille's use of primitive special effects techniques was big during the 1920s. His famous work on the 1923 film, The Ten Commandments, helped to set visual effects on the map. It was the first film to show the parting of the Red Sea. In this scene from the film, the water was poured in from a close-up model, and then the shot was reversed to show the water separating. The same happens in the scene here, when the water closes in on the Ramses, except it isn't a reverse shot. The introduction to colour in the 1940s had a big impact on VFX. Colour grading is important for VFX work because you can edit footage to establish an overall mood for your scenes. Also, you can make visual changes, such as setting the scene you shot in the daytime to nighttime. There were technical innovations brought into the effects field in the 1960s. The matte system was one of them, which was for lighting and backdrops. The matte system used sodium vapor lighting, which is a gas lamp that uses sodium. Another one was the crude motion control system. These systems were evident in popular 1960s films, such as Mary Poppins and The Birds. In the late 1970s and 80s, VFX played a big role in the work of directors George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. It was a launchpad for Lucas to get the Star Wars trilogy to be a massive success. The film Star Wars: A New Hope required Lucas to set up his own effects shop to achieve the massive effects shots in the film. Spielberg was also one of the few directors at the time that thought about using CGI and VFX in films. Technology has affected VFX, but for the better. As mentioned before, improvising was key for VFX work in the early days, but now we have so much advanced tech, it makes life easier. For example, we now have high-end machines like Apple Macs and Intel i9 Core PCs. We also have industry standard software. Here I've listed 5 of the best in my opinion. We've got things like Nuke, Blender, Adobe After Effects and Mocha, just to name a few. VFX is a lot more common in films and TV shows now. Our current era shows how much we rely on it to create worldwide phenomenons. For example, Guardians of the Galaxy is around 90% visual effects. In the near 2,400 shots in the film, 2,200 of these were effect shots. Even the famous Channel 4 ident, a staple of British television, and car adverts, like the 2020 Hyundai commercial, rely on special effects and computer-generated imagery, also known as CGI. There are numerous key people in the VFX industry worldwide, many of which have worked on popular hit films, but also a lot of them have worked on video games and TV shows. Douglas Trumbull is an American special effects supervisor. He directed movies Silent Running and Brainstorm, but is also responsible for VFX work in films like Blade Runner, The Tree of Life, and Star Trek. John Dykstra is an American special effects artist. He was a pioneer in the development of using computers in filmmaking. He is widely known for his lead role in the Star Wars films for visual effects, and was important in bringing the famous Force powers to the screen. Adam McKay is an Australian special effects supervisor. He has worked on films like Transformers and The Equalizer, but also many video games like Halo, Call of Duty and Destiny. Although Australian-born, he is based in Los Angeles, where his studio, Catastrophic FX, is located. There are many key techniques in the VFX industry. One of them is digital compositing. This is where you digitally construct one image from multiple different images. Another key technique is CGI, which is really a staple of VFX. It is where you use computer graphics to create images and special effects. Green screening is another key technique. It is the process of compositing two video or image layers together, and is used mostly to put a background in behind an actor. The history and progression of VFX is really fascinating, so I thought I'd speak to Ken, the course leader of the VFX course at Southampton Solent University, and ask him a few questions on the subject. What does it take to be a successful VFX artist?
Well, being a VFX artist is a blend of being creative and being technical. There's a lot of people who are quite technical and can get on with the software, but they don't know how to make something look good. And I think if you are a good artist, but you're also willing and able to learn the software and learn all the technical stuff, then you can go a long way.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time getting used to the software, like the Adobe stuff, and not only that, but Blender and DaVinci and all that stuff.
Yeah, it can take a while to get used to. Some of the software can be very complicated, particularly if you're using the sort of industry standard software like we do. We've got software called Nuke, which is does just about everything, but is very complex to use. So it takes a while, and even in industry, there are people who don't know. In fact, most people don't know all of the different parts of the software. They know the bits of the software for their job.
Yeah.
So doing a degree in it can be really challenging, but also you get a really good overview, which you wouldn't really get in industry.
Yeah, of course. And when you do the stuff, you get the degree at the end of it, and the hard work does pay off.
Yeah, definitely.
The next question I've got on here is, when did you know you wanted to be a lecturer in the VFX area?
I kind of got into it by accident. So my first degree is actually mechanical engineering, and I was a mechanical engineer for a number of years, and then decided I'd go into teaching. I realised I didn't like teaching engineering at all. So I just moved into a subject that seemed fun, and I've now been doing that for 15 years, and it is still fun, which is nice. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, a lot of the lecturers and stuff I've talked to over interviews for uni, they said they've been in it for quite a while, so it's nice to hear that it's kind of stuck with you. And it's been an area that you've
it's quite addictive.
Stay in.
You never stop learning either. There's always tons of stuff to learn.
Final question I've got on here is, what's your favourite visual effect from any film over any year, and why?
There's so many. I really quite liked the effects in Inception, where they folded the city in half. That was pretty cool. And Interstellar's cool, but I'm kind of a bit of a space geek, so when they actually did the black hole according to real black hole physics, that was cool. I thought really enjoyed that.
It's great.
But then I also love the creature effects. So things like Jungle Book, I think, were really good. Yeah.
Especially for that time as well. It's great how it's evolved, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's great how a lot of films rely on it, like the Star Wars trilogy and stuff.
Yeah, it's Star Wars really pushed the boundaries. I think they have a much bigger budget than a lot of the other sort of CGI films. But so much of the Star Wars stuff is just 100% CGI. You don't realise until you're actually in the industry that actually you're not looking at anything real sometimes.
Of course, yeah. And I've read up on the Avengers Endgame from 2019. A lot of that, about I think 90% of the statistic I looked at was all CGI and visual effects and a lot of
Yeah,
that.
it's really interesting when you see the breakdowns and you see like the Hulk
Mm.
is actually the actor on stilts walking around with a mocap suit on, but when you see it in the actual film, it's the Hulk.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is good to see a lot of these movies relying on it because you don't necessarily need real life actors. You can enjoy a film just from the effects as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the with things like the latest Spider-Man movies and Deadpool and things like that, when they're in their suit, there's no actor there. It's just the CG,
Yeah,
and it's only Gravity was another good one. I don't know if you remember Gravity, but
yeah.
the only things that were actually real in Gravity were the actors' faces. Everything else was done in CG.
Anyway, thanks for your time. Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank
And
you. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
so here I am in After Effects, Adobe After Effects, and I'm just going to show you some of the VFX and visual effects work you can do in this software. So I've got some pre-recorded clips here. We'll start with field number 1.mov.movie. We'll stick that in there, and we'll press the spacebar just to let it render. And when the green bar reaches the end, it would have rendered. The video will be a lot smoother. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. We'll leave it there. And here's the effects and presets menu. There's loads to choose from, and I think the rain effect, rain CC rainfall under simulation will fit this really well in the field. So as you can see, when we drop that on the top, you can see rain. It looks really good. But in the effect controls menu here for the CC rainfall, there's like the drop, size, the speed, wind. You can put wind on it. The variation of the wind. There is loads to choose from. Even the colour. I don't know why you'd want to change the colour of rain, but you can do. So we're going to put the drops up. It's set at 5,000. We're not going to go too excessive. We'll maybe put it 15,000. And if we hit the spacebar there, the drops, there's more drops there. You can also increase the size. If we go to maybe, I don't know, 5.5 or something like that. The size is a lot bigger. You can do the speed of it, so it's at 4,000. Maybe if we just put that up to, I don't know, just over 5,000. It just gives you more of a ferocious rain. And that's just an example. There's the effects and presets menu. As we've been over, we've been in simulation for the rainfall. There's loads. You can do text if you really want, numbers. Obsolete is quite good. Obviously, Cinema 4D and Boris FX Mocha, if you do have the add-ons like the Cinema 4D software, you can 100% do that. Not only that, there's loads of built into the After Effects software effects like color correction. Look how many there are just under color correction. Key in if you're working with green screen, you go for the key light in brackets 1.2. There are just loads, and I think After Effects is one of the best software out there for any visual effects work, especially if you're getting into it and you're new to it. I think After Effects is a really good example. This has been the history of VFX. I hope you've learned something and have enjoyed the ride. But now, from me Adam, it's goodbye.